Hey guys, how's it going, everybody? This is TheStormPow, and this is a pretty close OU match with a guy. We both made some pretty good predictions, and most of them were his predictions, but I made a few good moves that ended up winning the match for me, and I made a few bad moves that could have won the match for me a lot earlier. But anyway, as you can see by the team preview, I was expecting either Abomasnow or Fortress to be his lead. I went ahead and went with Chansey as my lead, though, because I figured that I couldn't go wrong with that, because I could do Flamethrower on either one of them, and if it was something else random, then I could go for just the Stealth Rocks, or if I absolutely had to, I would switch out. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into this. He ends up actually going for a Conkeldurr lead, which I don't see that often, because Conkeldurr, you know, they're just not very common leads. I don't know exactly why, but I wasn't going to take the chance on him going for a Drain Punch or anything, or a Mach Punch, so I just switched right out into Gengar, because I was sort of expecting it, but he ended up going for a Bulk Up, which was a good move on his part, and I see that he has the Flame Orb, which means he probably also has Facade, because Guts Conkeldurr with Facade is a really big beast, and I was kind of hoping he wouldn't have the payback, because if he was expecting me to change out, I kind of figured he would go ahead and go straight for the payback, but alas, he did have a payback, and so I sent out my Metagross, and of course I was going to go for a really typical Bullet Punch, and I should have gone for a Pursuit, because that probably would have killed it, and I should have known that he was going to expect me to, that I was going to expect him to switch out. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But I was going for a Hammer Arm just to see what it would do. And he goes for the Volt Switch just to see what it would do mainly. And also so he can change out really quick. So, he goes into his Latias, and I stayed in because I was going to go for an Ice Punch, and I guess he goes for the Substitute just to see what I was going to do, and at this point I'm like, alright, I know he's not going to just sit here and, like, let me Ice Punch him here, so I knew he was going to change out this time. I was a little bit more sure of it, so I go for the Pursuit, which actually does a good bit of damage, because, you know, Latias is Psychic. It almost kills him, just leaves him with a sliver of health, and at this point I knew that I wanted to get Rocks up, because, like, I knew that Rocks would probably be enough to finish off the Latias. So I send back out my Blissey, which I use for Rocks most of the time, because I feel like Blissey's a good lead and Rock setter-upper, because it can take a lot of different kinds of hits. So I go ahead and set up the Rocks right as he switches back out into his Conkeldurr. Having the Rocks up earlier would have helped me out when he switched into the Conkeldurr. It probably would have killed the Conkeldurr, actually. But I go ahead and switch out into the Robo Crab, figuring it could take a decent melee hit like that, because my Metagross is fairly defensively bulky. So it takes it all right. And he switches back out into his Fortress. And again, I don't know why I was expecting him to stay in, so I just go for another Bullet Punch. I think I was thinking he was gonna change up his moves a little bit or whatever and try to trip me up, but he ended up going with the same thing. So I switch into my Volcarona, excuse me, I always say it like that, because I knew that he would be afraid of a Flamethrower, so that would give me a good chance to go ahead and do a Quiver Dance and get some of my stuff up. But alas, I knew the Poison was going to be doing quite a bit of damage to me, and that it was going to be a little bit of a hindrance on me. He sends out his Quagsire, and I really had no idea what I could even do to that thing. Water and Ground, and my Volcarona is Fire and Bug. I had no idea what to do. So I just said fuck it to my Quiver Dances and switched out into my Latios, because I was going to go for an Energy Ball, because I really didn't think he would see it coming that much, but I guess Energy Ball is a little bit more predictable than I thought, so I go for the Energy Ball. I guess I'd imagine he was predicting it, either that or it was just some random change, but then I go for a Thunderbolt just to see what it would do, hoping I would get some para hacks, which I did, and he actually goes for a Thunder Wave, oddly enough. I really wasn't expecting that, but I guess he was thinking I would change out, so he wasn't going to go straight for an Ice move, and this is when I changed into Blissey, because I was like, alright, he thinks I'm going to change out, or stay in, excuse me, and I really don't know why he didn't go for an Ice move, because, I don't know, he must have figured I was going to change out, which is why he went for a Thunder Wave, and so I set up the Rocks that were taken down by the Fortress that used the Rapid Spin earlier, because I haven't seen that many Fortresses use a Rapid Spin, but I don't know, and I was planting my Blissey firm on the ground, and I took the Mach Punch, because I thought that maybe I would survive whatever he was going to have. I was sort of expecting a Drain Punch, not necessarily a Mach Punch, but we ended up both dying, and I bet that the crit didn't matter, but it could have for all I know. So I knew he was going to change out, so I just took that as a good chance to go for another Quiver Dance, and at this point I didn't feel like changing out of my Volcarona, so I just go for a Hurricane because that was all I could think of to do. My other moves were HP Electric and Flamethrower, so, you know, obviously if Hurricane hit, it was going to do the most damage out of those moves. He goes for a Scald, which doesn't do too much damage, and I'm already poisoned, so I can't get burnt, so, you know, that's good. So then I figured he was going to change out because he really didn't want his Quagsire to take another Hurricane, so I went for a Flamethrower. This was kind of a risky move on my part because it was very likely he could have just stayed in because he could have known that Hurricane doesn't have very high accuracy, but I got rid of his Fortress that way, and I needed to do so because his Fortress was the way that he was going to get rid of my Stealth Rocks. So I just go for another Hurricane because I was feeling cocky. I was like, fuck it, I don't care if it's probably going to miss, I'm going to go for it. And he gets confused, which really doesn't lead up to anything because I don't think that he hits himself once, but he just goes for a Recover, and he's basically trying to stall me out while my Volcarona dies from its poison, and you know, so I'm just kind of going for random moves that I can think of. He goes ahead and changes out back into his Latias. I'm pretty sure he just used it as fodder to stall me because he probably knew for sure it was going to faint from the Stealth Rocks. So kind of like how I was predicting towards the very beginning of the match when I had first set up the Stealth Rocks. And I knew for sure his Abomasnow was going to know Protect and use it, but I didn't know what else to really do. It didn't seem like it was worth it to change out at this point, so I just went for a Flamethrower on that absolute off chance that he didn't use Protect or something. So, yeah, so he basically ended up successfully stalling me, and my Volcarona, I didn't want to change it out because it had been suffering for long enough. I'm pretty sure that it's fair to say that it deserved to die and be put out of its misery. So, I had the Flame Orb on my my Conkeldurr, actually, like how this guy had his, because I usually just go for Facade and stuff like that. But the poison had already gotten me from the toxic spikes, so that activated my guts, and I got rid of his Abomasnow a second ago using just a typical Drain Punch. And then basically, I just go for this on his Quagsire. I'm going for Drain Punch so I can just kind of make it to where this poison isn't doing much, and he just goes for a Stockpiled, whereas I was expecting him to go straight for a Scald or to go for something. Like, I was expecting Scald, maybe Earthquake or whatever, but I really wasn't expecting him to just go for Stockpiled. But nevertheless, that's what he does, and I just go for a Facade, I think, this next turn, because he had the Leech Seed up and everything, so I just wanted to just get this shit out of the way. I should have gone for a Drain Punch and gotten all the health that I could have gotten out of that, but I didn't, just because I didn't feel like it. I think I was thinking he would change out, but then again, I didn't know what his other Pokemon was, so if he had changed out, then that Facade would have done next to nothing. So he goes for the Protect, trying to stall me out, you know, letting my poison do some damage, while I'm just going for Drain Punches, and the Hail, of course, isn't helping, so he's actually doing a pretty good job of tanking and getting me stalled and slowly dying, because he's actually getting health by the Hail, whereas I'm taking damage from it, and I'm also getting hurt by my poison. So I just go for a Drain Punch, which, you know, because I needed the health and everything, but it actually ends up knocking out his Regice, finishing up the match. And that is it for this fight. I would like to thank you all for watching. Hope you have a nice day, and goodbye!